Hi friends, Mickey Mankus here and welcome to Out the Back Door. Today I'm going to be canning potatoes. I raw pack them. Join me. These potatoes are from 2017 and I only have about 6 jars left. I had canned up many cases in 2017. So this time, instead of doing half pints, I'm going to be doing quarts. Now, I was very blessed with my next door neighbor and friend Sandy, who came over and helped me peel potatoes. It took us 4 hours between the two of us to peel 100 potatoes and slice them up. So anyway, that is all taken care of. I know some people actually can their potatoes with the skins on. I don't. So what I've done is I've taken all my potatoes and I've rinsed them off real good to get the excess dirt off of them, so when I'm working with them they're not as dirty. So after I've rinsed off all my potatoes and I start peeling them, I put my peeled potatoes in a large bowl of water so that way they're not going to start discoloring on me, because we had a lot to do. So out of all of the potatoes that we had peeled and cut up, I've got 40 pounds worth in here, and that's what I'm going to be canning today. The other 60 pounds I'm going to be dehydrating. So one of the main reasons I've got my potatoes in the water, other than I don't want them to discolor, is it actually starts helping pull out some of the starch. I did leave these in the water in the pot overnight. It was getting really late by the time we got done, and I didn't want to start canning that late at night. Just a reminder, when you're canning, especially pressure canning, you want to make sure that you have everything out and ready to go. So besides my potatoes cut into large chunks so that they won't get really mushy when they process, I've got this. I also have my canners out. Yes, canners, plural, because I'm anticipating doing more than 20 quarts. I'm putting them into quart jars this time instead of pints. My All-American 941 will hold 20 wide mouth quart jars in there, but like I said, I feel that I'm going to probably need more than that. My 921 pressure canner All-American, that will hold 7 quarts. If I see I'm going to need more than that, I will go and grab my 930. That will hold 14 quarts. So then I'll just push the 921 to the side and load up the 930 instead. So I don't have any water in my 921 yet. I do in the 941. I've got the heat underneath it to start bringing it up to temp. I also have a very large stock pot full of water that I want to bring up to boiling, because that's all I'm going to pour over the potatoes once I get them into the jars. I do have my salt ready to go because I'm adding salt also. My Tattler lids are on the back burner heating up already because we want to scald our Tattlers, or if you're using Harvest Guard, same process. My jars are in the oven heating up right now also. I've got that at 225 degrees. These are at room temperature. So I don't want any real big temperature shock, fluctuation, anything like that. So let's get started. All right, I've pulled my first case of jars out of the oven. And all I'm going to do is fill the jars up with my potato pieces. I'm going to be leaving a 1-inch headspace. And when I was talking about adding salt, you don't have to add salt if you don't want. The only reason for the salt is for flavoring. It has nothing to do with the actual processing. So you may be asking why I would want to can potatoes. Well, it's convenience food for me. I consider my working pantry my fast food pantry. That's where I get my fast food from. I go downstairs and I grab jars off the shelf and I throw something really quick together that's nutritious for our meals. And so the potatoes fall into that category also. I did a video on 5-minute potato salad, and I use my canned potatoes for that. And it's excellent. I mean, within 5 minutes, you've got potato salad. Another thing I really like about this is for mashed potatoes. Being that they're processed and everything, they are cooked. They're ready to go, and all I do is I open up a jar and I throw it into a pot on the stove top with the liquid and everything, and then just heat it up. Once it starts boiling, that's about it. And then I drain them and I add my butter and my milk, and then I mash them. So it's my fast food. But anyway, that's why I can potatoes. I'm just gonna keep filling the jars right now, and we'll get on to the next step. All right, I'm putting 1 teaspoon of sea salt into each quart jar. If you're doing pints, you can put a half a teaspoon if you like. But as I did say, the salt is not necessary. It's only for flavoring. It has nothing to do with processing. Now I'm going to be adding my water. And like I said, I'm going to be leaving a 1-inch headspace. Okay, remember we need to debubble. And that way we may need a little bit more water in some of the jars, depending on how many bubbles come up. Okay. Make sure that you wipe your rims. We don't want any starchy residue that we may have gotten on there from the potatoes. All right, now I'm gonna start putting my lids on. If you're using metal flats, that's fine. And according to Ball and Kerr, and they say on your packaging that you don't have to heat up your canning lids any longer. Well, if you're using reusable ones, yes you do. You have to scald them. Now we'll put our bands on. Remember, fingertip tight. Everybody's fingertip is different. It's just holding our lid down in place. So once I get these all done, I am going to put them into the canner already and get my next case of jars out of the oven. And being I know that I can get 20 quarts into the 941 canner, that's all I'm going to fill up to start with, and then I'll put the remainder jars back into the oven to stay warm. Now, if you're canning pints, depending on your elevation, here we do it at 10 pounds. Pints you would process for 35 minutes. Quarts, I'm going to be processing for 40 minutes. I loaded up my second canner. I decided to use the 921 and I put 7 quarts in there. I had about enough potatoes to do 2 more quarts and that was all. So to me it wasn't worth digging out the bigger canner for 2 more jars. So I'll just cook those up for supper tonight. But right now I'm in the process of getting ready to vent. The large canner's getting close. Oh, just a reminder, make sure before you put your top on that you're checking your vent holes and everything to make sure that they're clear. So now I'm waiting for the pressure to come up enough so that it'll vent for 10 minutes. I am going to write this down on a piece of paper so I can keep track, because the canners aren't going to start at the same time. I just want to make sure that, you know, I'm getting the proper venting time on each one. I will put my regulator weight on. Like I said, for our altitude here, I'm going to put a 10-pound weight on. And then once it comes up to pressure, being I'm doing quarts, I'm going to process for 40 minutes. And then I'll turn the heat off and let it come down naturally. All right, so the large canner has come down from pressure. It took just a little over an hour for it to come down back to 0. The small one, we're still at about 6 pounds on the small one. So fortunately, the small canner comes down a little more quickly than the large one does. I'm going to pull the regulator off and I'm going to wait 1 minute before I go and take the top off. That way, if there's any residual pressure left in the canner, even though it's sitting on 0, I'm going to make sure that it comes out before I go and I take the top off. Now remember, when you're removing your top from your canner, that you're going to pull it away from you so that you don't get a steam burn. All right, so I'm going to let this sit for about another 5 minutes before I start pulling my jars out. I know that for quite a few years now, when you're using regular metal lids, they've been recommending leaving them in for about 5 minutes before you pull them out. But a while back, Tatler wanted you to remove them immediately so that you could tighten down the band onto the lid. Now Tatler's also recommending to let them sit for about 5 minutes or so and watch to see how hard they're boiling. Because if they're still boiling a lot, it's said that the air is still escaping from there, and just let them do their thing. And then tighten your bands down. So I'm gonna wait about 5 minutes and I'll check on them to see how they're doing. Just in that 5 minutes that I was allowing the jars to sit, I see that the pressure has dropped down to about 3.5 pounds on the small canner already. So by about the time that I get the big one unloaded and everything and tightened down the bands, I'm guessing that the small one will be ready for the top to come off, and I can wait 5 minutes on that and then remove those. You may notice, if you haven't followed me, I wear insulated leather gloves all the time when I'm doing my pressure canning, especially with the Tatler lids. Being that I do have to grab onto the jar and screw down the band, this way I have a better hold instead of just using like towels to do that. So let's start getting those unloaded. I'm really happy how clear the liquid is in these. When I had done them in the pint jars back in 2017, they got a little bit cloudy at the bottom. There was sediment that dropped, and I don't know if it had anything to do with the fact that I soaked them longer before I canned them. I'm really not sure, but I'm impressed with how clean they look. 27 quarts. So that's all right. That'll hold us over for the season until next fall, winter time, when it's time to can again, and looks good. So I'm just going to clean up around the kitchen here, and I'm going to leave these sit overnight to make sure that they seal well and everything, and then in the morning I'll take the bands off and double check all the lids to make sure that they are sealed, wash them up and everything, and we'll take a look at them then. So I'll see you tomorrow morning. Good morning. I just realized I generally never show you when I take the bands off. I don't know why. I just wash them up and then I show you the end product, and there we go. So anyway, for those of you that are not familiar with reusable lids, this is how I check them to make sure that they're sealed. And I already started, a batch over here I was going to get ready to wash, but all I'm doing is gently lifting up on the lid to make sure that it's not coming off. And if I have one that isn't going to seal, you're going to know it immediately. Ha! Who figured? Yeah. So what are the chances of that happening when I just said that? I don't know what happened. I don't know if I didn't leave enough headspace, if I had my band on too tight. It happens. I'm not perfect. All right, well, that one's going in the refrigerator. So I am going to continue checking my lids, but that's how easy they'll come off if they're not sealed. So I'm going to continue taking the bands off. I am going to wash these in warm soapy water and dry them off. I'll label them, and then I'll get them down into my pantry. And that's all there is to canning potatoes, raw packing them. It was simple, easy, and like I said, now this is one of my fast foods that I can pull off the pantry shelf at any time. So I hope you enjoyed this. And if you did enjoy this video, please consider subscribing, give me a thumbs up, hit that notification bell. And if you have any comments or questions, please leave them below, because I would like to hear from you. So until next time, you have a wonderful day. God bless.